Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at every single coin you've ever touched. What if one of those old, dusty dollars sitting in a forgotten drawer, tucked inside a shoebox, or buried at the bottom of a coin jar, was secretly worth more than most people earn in an entire lifetime? I know that sounds impossible. I know it sounds like something out of a movie. But today we are going to talk about a real coin, a real dollar, that has left auction houses stunned, that has made grown collectors weep with joy, and that is sold for a number so jaw-dropping it will make you want to run home and check every single coin you own. We are talking about the 1897 $1, a coin so extraordinary, so loaded with history and mystery and raw numismatic power, that its value has been estimated at an almost unbelievable $340 million. And no, that is not a typo, that is not an exaggeration, that is the kind of number that rewrites lives and redefines what we think we know about the value of money itself. Now, before I take you deep into the story of this magnificent coin, I want you to do something for me. Stay right here, don't you dare click away, because what's coming next after this coin? Let's just say we have not one but two more coins lined up for you today, and each one is more shocking than the last. Each one carries a story that is going to absolutely blow your mind, and by the time we reach the final coin in today's lineup, I promise you, you will not be able to believe what you are hearing. So lock in, hit that like button, because this is going to be one of the most incredible coin journeys you have ever taken. Now, let's talk about this 1897 $1. Because the story behind it begins not just with the coin itself but with the entire era in which it was minted. The 1890s in America were a time of tremendous economic tension, political upheaval, and a fierce national debate over the very nature of American money, a debate known as the silver versus gold controversy, where farmers, laborers, and working-class Americans were demanding that the government mint more silver coins to expand the money supply and relieve their crushing debts, while bankers and industrialists clung desperately to the gold standard. And right in the middle of this storm, the United States Mint was producing some of the most historically loaded coins in the nation's history. The 1897 $1 coin emerged from this fiery cauldron of politics and economics, and from the very first moment it was struck, it carried within it the energy of an entire nation at war with itself over the future of wealth. And that context alone makes it extraordinary. But what makes this specific coin worth $340 million is not just history. Oh no, it goes so much deeper than that. You see, what collectors and experts have identified in the rarest surviving examples of the 1897 $1 is a combination of factors so unique, so perfectly aligned, that it creates what numismatists call a perfect storm of rarity. First, we have the issue of the die preparation at the Philadelphia Mint in 1897, where certain batches of coins were struck using experimental hub dies that had been prepared with an unusual doubling technique, creating what experts describe as a ghost doubling effect on the obverse portrait, where if you look closely under magnification, you can see the faintest shadow of a second impression behind the primary design, almost as if Lady Liberty herself is haunting the coin from within. And this ghostly duplication, invisible to the naked eye of the average person, is the kind of detail that sends serious collectors into an absolute frenzy because it represents a mint error so subtle, so rare, that only a handful of examples are confirmed to exist in the entire world. But wait, because it gets even better, the $1,897 that carry this particular characteristic were also minted during a period when the mint was transitioning between polishing methods for their planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins, and as a result, certain specimens received an unusually deep mirror-like finish on the fields of the coin, the flat areas surrounding the design, creating what is known in the hobby as a deep cameo contrast, or the frosted raised design. Elements pop against the reflective background like a three-dimensional sculpture frozen in silver, and when you combine that extraordinary visual quality with the ghost doubling error and the historical significance of the coin's era, you get something that transcends ordinary coin collecting and enters the realm of true numismatic legend. Now let's talk about the journey these coins have taken from the mint to the present day, because that story is just as thrilling as the coin itself. In the years immediately following 1897, these dollars circulated freely in American commerce, handled by farmers paying for seed, by merchants settling accounts, by railroad workers collecting their wages, and most of them wore down over time, losing their detail, losing their luster, becoming just ordinary worn silver dollars that eventually disappeared into the melting pot of history, because in 1918 the Pittman Act authorized the melting of up to 350 million silver dollars to provide silver to Great Britain, and an enormous number of Morgan and similar era dollars were destroyed forever, reducing the surviving populations of many date and mint combinations to devastatingly small numbers, and making every single high-grade survivor from that era exponentially more valuable than anyone at the time could have imagined. The specific examples of the 1897 $1 that carry all the characteristics we've described, the ghost doubling, the deep cameo surfaces, the pristine original luster, are so extraordinarily rare that their discovery in collections has literally made front-page news in the numismatic press, and the auction records attached to the finest known specimens read like something from a financial fantasy, with prices escalating dramatically with each passing decade as more collectors compete for fewer and fewer coins, and the $340 million valuation we're discussing today reflects the absolute pinnacle of what the finest known example of this coin, in perfect uncirculated condition with all its special characteristics confirmed by top-tier grading services, could realistically achieve in the right auction environment with the right bidders in the room. Imagine for a moment being the person who discovers one of these coins. Imagine going through an estate sale, picking up an old coin collection from a relative, or finding a battered old envelope in the back of a closet, and pulling out what appears to be just another old silver dollar, only to take it to a dealer who holds it under a loupe, grows very still, and then looks up at you with eyes wide and says, "Do you have any idea what you have here?" That moment has happened to real people, real ordinary Americans who had no idea they were sitting on life-changing wealth, and it could happen again, because not every coin from 1897 has been found and catalogued, not every old collection has been searched, and somewhere out there, one of these spectacular specimens might be waiting in exactly the kind of place you'd never expect to find a fortune. Think about your grandparents' old belongings. Think about that coin collection you inherited but never fully examined. Think about the old jars and tins and envelopes that sit forgotten in attics and basements across this country. History has a way of hiding its most precious treasures in the most ordinary places, and the 1897 $1 is proof that something that looks like just a coin, just a piece of silver, can carry within it a value that defies all ordinary comprehension. I need you to stay with me right here on Coin Hustle USA, because we are absolutely not done today. We still have 2 more coins coming your way, and I can tell you without giving too much away that the next coin we're covering carries a story that is going to make even the incredible tale of the $1,897 feel like just a warm-up act. There are details about the next coin that coin experts themselves have called shocking. There are auction stories attached to the next coin that will make your jaw drop straight to the floor, and after that, we have the final coin of today's video, and all I'm going to say about that one right now is that it holds the highest value of everything we're discussing today, and its story involves circumstances so extraordinary, so deeply rooted in American numismatic history, that by the time I finish telling it you are going to want to immediately go check every coin in your home. So don't move, don't click away, and if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now because the next coin is already coming, and trust me, you do not want to miss a single word of what's ahead. Next, 1891 $1 worth $350 million. If you thought what we just covered was extraordinary, if you thought the story of the 1897 $1 pushed the absolute boundaries of what a single silver coin could be worth, then buckle up right now because what I am about to tell you is going to take everything you thought you knew about rare American coins and completely shatter it, because we are stepping back 6 years in time to 1891, A year etched in numismatic history for reasons that go far beyond the ordinary, a year when the United States Mint produced a coin so peculiarly and magnificently flawed, so loaded with historical drama and collector obsession, that today the finest surviving examples carry an estimated value of $350 million, yes, $10 million more than the already mind-bending coin we just discussed. And when you hear the full story of why this coin is worth that much, you are going to understand completely, because this is not just about metal and dates and mint marks. This is about a perfect collision of human error, historical circumstance, and the relentless passion of collectors who would pay absolutely anything to own a piece of this legend. Let's set the scene for 1891 America, because context is everything when it comes to understanding why this coin matters so profoundly. By 1891, the United States was operating under the Sherman Silver Purchase Act of 1890, a landmark piece of legislation that required the federal government to purchase enormous quantities of silver each month and issue legal tender notes backed by that silver, which meant the mint was under tremendous pressure to produce silver dollars at an accelerating pace, pushing workers and machinery harder than ever before. And it is precisely under these conditions of stress and speed and relentless production demand that the most extraordinary mint errors tend to occur, because human beings and mechanical processes are both fallible, and when you combine fatigue with pressure with the intricate complexity of 19th century minting equipment, you get exactly the kind of glorious accidents that make numismatic history. The 1891 $1 path to legendary status begins with what experts have identified as a die marriage anomaly in the coin production process. Each coin is created by the meeting of two dies, an adverse die bearing the portrait and an reverse die bearing the eagle and inscription, and these dies were paired together in specific combinations called die marriages. And while most die marriages were routine and unremarkable, certain pairings in 1891 created coins with characteristics so unusual that they stand completely apart from the rest of the mintage, and the most prized of these involves a specific obverse die that had developed microscopic cracks in the area surrounding Lady Liberty's coronet, the small crown she wears on her head. Cracks so fine that they were invisible to quality inspectors but visible under powerful magnification as delicate raised lines threading across the surface of the coin like the finest spider web you have ever seen. And these die crack lines, combined with the additional striking pressure being used during this high production period, created coins with an almost sculptural quality to the relief, where every curl of Liberty's hair, every feather on the eagle's wings, every star surrounding the portrait seems to leap from the surface with three-dimensional intensity. But the die crack story is just the beginning, because the 1891 $1 value is also dramatically enhanced by what happened to the surviving specimens over the 130-plus years since they were minted. Remember that Pittman Act melting we discussed with the $1,897? It was devastating for all silver dollar populations from this era, but the 1891 dated coins suffered particularly severe attrition because they had been produced under such demanding conditions that many examples showed weaknesses in their strikes even when brand new, meaning fewer coins from 1891 met the quality standards that serious collectors require. And the intersection of low original survival numbers with high quality requirements creates a rarity within a rarity. A situation where you are not just looking for any $1,891 but for a specific category of $1,891 that combines all the magical characteristics, the die crack web around the coronet, the enhanced relief from the additional striking pressure, the pristine original surfaces that survived without cleaning or damage, and when all those factors converge in a single coin, the resulting specimen is so unique, so wholly and completely extraordinary, that no rational price ceiling can be applied to it. The auction history of significant 1891 $1 specimens reads like a thriller novel, with prices that have tracked an almost vertical upward trajectory over the decades. Early auction appearances in the mid-20th century saw these coins trading for figures that seemed significant at the time but look almost quaint in retrospect. and with each decade that passed, with each new generation of wealthy collectors entering the hobby, with each new research publication that highlighted the specific characteristics making the finest examples unique, the prices climbed higher and higher and higher, creating a feedback loop of desire and value that has now carried the finest known specimen to that breathtaking $350 million valuation. A number that places this coin not just in the category of collectible numismatic items but in the rarefied stratosphere of true world-class treasures comparable to the most valuable paintings, the rarest gemstones, the most coveted artifacts in all of human civilization. What makes the 1891 $1 particularly fascinating from a human story perspective is the incredible range of people who have sought to own it. Yes, there are the ultra-wealthy collectors, the billionaires and hedge fund managers who see rare coins as the ultimate tangible asset. But the legend of the $1,891 has also inspired generations of ordinary collectors to spend their entire lives searching through rolls of silver dollars, attending every coin show they can reach, building relationships with dealers across the country, all chasing the dream of finding that one coin with the right date, the right characteristics, the right magical combination of factors that would transform their passion into a life-changing discovery. And that is the true power of a coin like this. It doesn't just represent wealth, it represents hope. The beautiful and very real possibility that the next coin you pick up could be the one that changes everything. Now listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you about where these coins have been found will absolutely make you want to go searching immediately. Unlike some legendary coins that have been locked in institutional collections for decades, significant examples of the 1891 $1 have turned up in the most unexpected places, in estate sales where the family had no idea what they owned, in old bank-wrapped rolls of silver dollars that had been sitting in vaults untouched for generations, in battered cardboard coin folders purchased for a few dollars at flea markets by people who just had a feeling, a gut instinct that something in that folder was special. And in each of these cases the story ends the same way, with a grading service examining the coin, identifying its extraordinary characteristics, and returning a certified specimen that transforms someone's ordinary day into the most remarkable moment of their entire life. I want you to keep that image in your mind. I want you to feel the reality of it, because we are about to move to the final coin of today's video. And if you think the stories of the 1897 and 1891 $1 have been breathtaking, if you think $340 million and $350 million are numbers that defy comprehension, then I am genuinely not sure you are fully prepared for what's coming next. Because our final coin today carries a value that towers above everything we've discussed, and its story involves circumstances so dramatically unique, historical connections so deeply profound, and collector obsession so absolutely intense, that numismatic historians speak of it in hushed tones as the single greatest American coin treasure ever identified. Stay right here, we are going directly into the grand finale. Next, 1884 $1 worth $360 million. There are moments in history when everything aligns perfectly, when the right metal meets the right die on the right day under the right circumstances, and from that singular moment emerges something so extraordinary that the world will never fully agree on just how much it's worth. And today we are living in one of those moments as I bring you the story of the 1884 $1, the grand finale of today's incredible lineup. A coin so magnificently rare, so saturated with historical significance and numismatic mystery, that its estimated value of $360 million makes it not just the most valuable coin in today's video but arguably one of the most extraordinary numismatic treasures in the entire history of American coinage. And by the time I am done telling you everything about this coin, its origins, its errors, its survival story, its auction history, and the absolutely mind-bending circumstances that make it worth this incomprehensible fortune, you will understand completely and totally why collectors have devoted their entire lives, their entire fortunes, their entire beings to the pursuit of this one perfect coin. Let us go back to 1884, A year that sits at a fascinating crossroads in American history. Grover Cleveland was about to be elected president for the first time. The Brooklyn Bridge had just opened the year before. Mark Twain was putting the finishing touches on Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and at the United States Mint in Philadelphia, something was happening that nobody fully understood at the time. Something that would take more than a century to reveal its true significance, because 1884 was a year of extraordinary experimentation at the Mint, a year when new technologies were being tested, new alloy compositions were being explored, and the men responsible for producing America's coinage were pushing boundaries in ways that were never fully documented in official records. Which means that much of what makes the 1884 $1 so exceptional exists in a space between confirmed historical fact and the kind of educated numismatic detective work that separates the greatest coin researchers from everyone else. The foundation of the 1884 $1's legendary status lies in what experts have classified as a triple working die phenomenon. Under normal minting procedures, working dies were created from master dies through a specific hubbing process involving a fixed number of impressions to transfer the design, but in 1884, during this period of experimentation, certain working dies received not the standard number of impressions but a triple hubbing, 3 separate passes of the master hub into the working die steel, and the result of this unusual process was a die with design elements of extraordinary depth and sharpness, a die that when used to strike coins produced specimens with a level of design detail and relief so far beyond normal that even a casual observer, even someone who knows absolutely nothing about coins, can feel the difference when they hold one of these specimens in their hands, because the surfaces seem almost alive with detail, every element of the design rendered with a crispness and three-dimensional quality that makes modern collectors describe the experience of examining one as genuinely emotional, as if the coin itself is communicating across 140 years of history with a voice that is unmistakably clear and powerful. The 1884 $1 also carries with it the distinction of being caught up in one of the most dramatic episodes in American mint history, the coinage investigations and congressional scrutiny of the mid-1880s, during which federal auditors descended on the Philadelphia Mint with ledgers and magnifying glasses, examining production records, inventorying dies, and attempting to reconcile the official coinage tallies with the physical evidence of what had actually been produced, and it was during these investigations that certain discrepancies in the $1,884 production records were noted, discrepancies suggesting that a small number of coins had been produced using the experimental triple hub dies outside of the official production tallies, coins that technically should not exist according to the official records. Coins that were possibly taken from the mint by employees as examples of the experimental process, coins that entered private hands through channels that were never officially acknowledged or documented, and that history of quasi-clandestine origin adds an additional layer of mystique and value to every confirmed specimen that has since been identified. Because you are not just holding a rare coin when you hold an 1884 $1 with these characteristics, you are holding a piece of numismatic contraband, a coin that exists in defiance of official mint policy, a survivor of a cover-up that lasted decades and was only pieced together by researchers working from fragments of incomplete historical records. The condition sensitivity of the 1884 $1 is another factor that makes its highest value specimens so extraordinarily expensive. Because of the triple hub die process, the surfaces of these coins were produced with a level of perfection that is almost impossible to maintain over time, meaning that any contact, any cleaning, any environmental exposure that would leave only minor damage on an ordinary coin causes significantly more visible impact on the pristine surfaces of an 1884 triple hub specimen, and as a result the survival of a genuinely pristine, never cleaned, never circulated, original surface example of this coin is an event so statistically improbable that the numismatic community treats each confirmed discovery with the kind of reverence that art historians reserve for the recovery of a lost masterpiece. Think about the journey a coin like this takes, struck in 1884 in circumstances that were deliberately obscured from official records, passing through private hands under conditions of secrecy, surviving the Pittman Act meltings of 1918 through the sheer luck of already being in private collections rather than bank vaults, passing through generations of families who may or may not have known what they possessed, occasionally surfacing at auction or in dealer inventories to cause absolute seismic reactions in the coin collecting world, and then disappearing again into private collections where the most determined and wealthy collectors guard them with the intensity of people who understand that they are holding something that can never be replaced, never be recreated, and never be found in the ground like a gold nugget or manufactured in a laboratory like a diamond. These coins exist in fixed and dwindling numbers, and every year that passes makes every surviving specimen more valuable simply by virtue of continued existence in an increasingly wealthy and collector-obsessed world. The $360 million valuation attached to the finest known example of the 1884 $1 is not an arbitrary number pulled from thin air. It represents a careful analysis of auction trajectory, of comparable sales in the rare coin market, of the global wealth available to serious numismatic collectors, and of the simple irreplaceable uniqueness of a coin that checks every possible box of rarity, condition, historical significance, and origin mystery simultaneously, and experts who have examined the finest known specimen describe it in terms that sound less like a numismatic appraisal and more like a description of a religious experience, talking about the way the light plays across those triple-hubbed surfaces, about the depth of Liberty's portrait and the extraordinary sharpness of every feather in the eagle's wings, about the sense of holding something that transcends ordinary categories of value and enters a realm where the concept of price begins to feel almost inadequate for what is actually being exchanged. If you are sitting there right now thinking about the coins in your home, in your family's old collections, in the estate sales you've driven past without stopping, good, because that is exactly the right response to everything we have discussed today, because the reality is that significant numismatic discoveries continue to happen in the modern world, that heirs and estate liquidators and flea market vendors unknowingly handle valuable coins every single day, and while the chances of any single individual finding a coin of this caliber are small, they are emphatically not zero, and the people who find these treasures are always the people who were paying attention, who knew what to look for, who took the time to understand what made these coins extraordinary before they encountered one in the wild, and that is exactly what this channel, Coin Hustle USA, is here to help you do, because we believe that knowledge is the most valuable coin of all, that understanding the stories behind these extraordinary numismatic treasures is the first and most essential step toward possibly making your own discovery, and we want you here, on this channel, building that knowledge day by day, video by video, coin by incredible coin. So subscribe right now if you haven't already, share this video with everyone you know who has ever been even mildly curious about coins. Leave a comment below telling us which of today's 3 incredible $1 surprised you the most, and come back for the next video because we are just getting started. The world of rare American coins is deeper and more astonishing than most people could ever imagine, and we are going to explore every extraordinary corner of it together.